Hello everybody and welcome to another edition of Charts with Dan. Today we're going to be looking at the opening of Mickey 17, the latest from director Bong Joon-ho, and updating some Oscar numbers. They pulled a bit of a prank on me last week, but before we get to that, let's get to the last weekend at the box office, and we will start with the opening of Mickey 17, which came in at $19 million once the final numbers came in. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but really, that given its budget, that's not the best opening in the world. Captain America Brave New World in its fourth week dropped 43.5% for an $8.3 million weekend. It is now at $176.4 million domestically. Last Breath dropped 47.8% for a weekend total just over $4 million. It's now at $14.5 million. The Monkey dropped 39% for a $3.9 million total. It actually almost took third place. It's now over $30 million domestically. Paddington in Peru continues to hold well. It made $3.7 million. It's now at $36.8 million. Dogman drops out of the top five. It dropped 20% for a $3.3 million weekend. It's now at $88.6 million. Number 7, that is not a mistake, Anora re-enters the top 10 in its 21st week of release. Neon had a big theatrical expansion in over 1,000 more theaters. It had a 573% increase in business and came in at $1.8 million for the weekend. It's now at $18.3 million. And can I just say, I have to tip my cap to Neon, not just for shrewdly putting it back in theaters the week after it won Best Picture and a bunch of other Oscars, but the fact that they've kept it in theaters. It's not out on physical media yet. I think we're still a couple of weeks away. They wanted to hold, they wanted to give it that last push in the theatrical window. I'm sure that Sean Baker is very happy with them as a distributor, and as a movie fan, I really like how they have handled the movie. They put it out in a lot of theaters. Initially when it came out, they kept it around, they put it back into a bunch of theaters so people could go see it on the big screen one last time, and here it is in the top 10. At number 8 is Mufasa the Lion King, which had $1.6 million over the weekend. It has now crossed the $250 million barrier. It's also been in the top 10 for 12 weeks, which means that of all the movies released in 2024, it stayed in the top 10 the longest. Just another indication of how long the legs have been on this movie, the leggiest movie of 2024. Rule Breakers enters the top 10 at number 9. Rule Breakers is the latest film from Angel Studios about a group of girls rebelling against the government in Afghanistan in order to get a STEM education and compete in a robotics competition. And rounding out the top 10 is In the Lost Lands from Paul W.S. Anderson. It comes in at just over $1 million. Dropping out of the top 10 this past week, we had 4 movies. One of them, Days, spent a very respectable 7 weeks in the top 10. Heart Eyes is also out of the top 10 after 4 weeks. Nudja 2 is out after 3 weeks, and The Unbreakable Boy drops out of the top 10 after just 2 weeks. When we look at the biggest theater count changes for the past weekend, Heart Eyes lost 1,198 theaters, about half of its theaters. It's still in just over 1,200. As I mentioned, Anora had a big expansion, 1,130 theaters added, so well into wide release again. It's in 1,938 total. If that's not the widest release it's been in throughout its whole release cycle, it's pretty close. Love Hurts dropped 948 theaters. It's now in just 264. Paddington in Peru started shedding theaters. It lost 620 of them. It's still in 3,085. And at number 5 is a movie called A Sloth Story, which lost 595 theaters. It's still in 155 total theaters. Do I know what A Sloth Story is? No, I do not, but it is on this list. This is what I like to call our road to recovery. The blue line is the weekend average for the years 2015 to 2019. The red line is the average for 2021 to 2024. And the dotted black line is every weekend this year. And you can see that for a second consecutive weekend, we are well below not only where we were pre-pandemic, but where we have been. The failure of Mickey 17 to launch, the fact that there aren't really a whole lot of other movies in the marketplace that are sustaining it, means that we are well off the pace from where we have been. All of those gains that we got, and they weren't very big in the first couple months, are disappearing rapidly. And if Snow White doesn't do well, if some of the other movies that are coming out this month don't do well, then we could very easily get to the end of March and be behind the pace where we were in 2024. And that's not where anyone in the industry wants us to be. But there's just not a whole lot of support for the movies that are in the marketplace right now. So let's talk about Mickey 17 because it's a bit of a good news, bad news situation. Good news in that it is the biggest opening of Bong Joon-ho's career. He got a big budget, wide release movie made. The bad news is that it was an under $20 million domestic debut. It's made around $50 million worldwide, but the movie was budgeted at $118 million. There have been reports that about $10 million more was put into reshoots. About $80 million was put into the marketing of the film, which means that the movie cost around $200 million in total, and it doesn't look like it's going to get close to making that money back in the theatrical window. And I'm kind of two minds about this. First of all, I'm happy that a major studio gave Bong Joon-ho these kinds of resources. I didn't love the movie. I thought it was a very interesting movie, but these are not the kind of resources that he would have had Parasite not been such a hit and won Best Picture. So I am glad that a studio gave him this amount of money to make a movie, but at the same time, I'm not exactly sure what they were thinking because we don't really have a case study that says that Bong Joon-ho is going to make a movie that's going to recoup a $200+ million investment. And when you look at Mickey 17, I think that that's a movie that could have been made for $60 or $70 million. It's not like Dune. When I look at Dune or Dune Part 2 and I look at how much it costs and I look at the movie, I say, well, yes, Denis Villeneuve needed that money from Warner Brothers because that is the scale and the scope of the movie that he had to make. When I look at Mickey 17, it looks great, absolutely, but I think that you could get right around the same movie for a much lower price point. And again, I like that Bong Joon-ho had the faith in the executives to get that, but I don't think that it was a very good idea for them to give him that money because here's what I'm worried will happen. It's not going to be, at least when you talk about the industry, when you're in the meeting with David Zaslav, et cetera, it's not going to be, well, we're going to lose some money, but we really invested a lot of resources into a great filmmaker and it's a noble failure. No, the lesson that's going to be taken away by a lot of studio heads is don't do that again. Don't risk our money like that again. Don't give filmmakers like that a budget like that again, because that's always what happens. It becomes about protecting yourself and protecting your investment. And I think that that's the downside of all this. So I admire the fact that Warner Brothers gave them the money to make this movie. I think that it was a very bad choice, and I worry about what it's going to mean for the next filmmakers that come in and want this kind of money. And Warner Brothers is gambling on a lot of stuff this year. With every Warner Brothers movie that underperforms, the pressure just mounts on Superman to do well this summer. It is now becoming the great hope of Warner Brothers. We'll see how Sinners does. We'll see how the new Paul Thomas Anderson movie does. But this was, in my mind, a noble failure. But I worry that for the David Zaslavs of the world, it will just be seen as a failure. But I did want to tie the trivia question for this week into Mickey 17. And this is the question: excluding franchise work, so Batman, Twilight, Harry Potter, etc., Robert Pattinson has acted in 3 films that opened at number 1 domestically. What are they? I'll give you some time to think. One of them is a gimme if you've been listening to me over the last 5 minutes or so. If you want to think of what the other one might be, look at the wording of the question. Robert Pattinson has acted in 3 films that opened at number 1. I'll give you another second. So here are the 3 non-franchise films that opened number 1 that Robert Pattinson has been in. They are Tenet, which was a pandemic-era number 1 film. The Boy and the Heron, which I kind of forgot, actually did open number 1 at the domestic box office. That's why I said acted in 3 films and not appeared in. He was a voice in the English dub of The Boy and the Heron. And then, of course, Mickey 17, which just opened this past weekend. Let's take a look at how Captain America Brave New World is doing as far as the MCU goes domestically. It has now passed Eternals for number 32 on the list, and it will soon get a bit of a symbolic victory because it is going to pass the domestic gross of Captain America, the First Avenger. It looks like it may be headed towards $200 million-ish, so that's a good thing in that it would have been a little embarrassing to make less than the first Chris Evans movie, which, by the way, came out many, many years ago, and these are not adjusted for inflation. When you do adjust the MCU for inflation, Captain America Brave New World is still at number 34 out of 35, well above, of course, the Marvels, but still trying to gain ground on Eternals. And if it gets to the $200 million-ish mark, that'll get it to Black Widow at number 31, but I don't see it going above Ant-Man, for example, at $227.4 million adjusted for inflation. So this is going to be in the bottom 5th of the MCU. which again, and a lot of people are still defending Captain America Brave New World. And listen, this is not a judgment on the quality of the film itself, and I'm not saying that this is an absolute financial catastrophe as we have seen. But these are just numbers. These are the facts, the figures, the numbers. If you want to qualify them based on your own opinion and say that we shouldn't have expected it to make that much, that's fine. You can do whatever you want to do. This is just me reporting what the actual box office figures are. And when we look at the profitability estimate for Captain America Brave New World, and again, this is just estimated based on my knowledge of the industry. This doesn't include ancillary income. This is just box office receipts. Right now, it's at a worldwide gross of $371 million. I estimate that it's netting from that $176.2 million. The stated budget, again, unless we get solid additional information, is $180 million. I understand it might be higher than that, but that's where we are right now. If you estimate $100 million for marketing, etc., I have Brave New World right now at a theatrical shortfall right around $103.7 million. And that's money that is going to have to be made up. Now, it very well could make that up from other sources, but that just means that it's going to be less of a moneymaker for the MCU and for Disney. And that's a bit of a problem because this franchise, the MCU, was for so long a reliable moneymaker, not a break-even moneymaker, a moneymaker in the $100, $200, $300 plus million range. And this puts more pressure on the other MCU projects that are coming out this year. Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four, etc. They now have more pressure to perform because Captain America Brave New World is not going to be a profitability driver for the MCU in the theatrical window. The Monkey and Anora are both top 10 movies again, and they are both top 10 movies as far as Neon releases all time domestically. The Monkey has now moved past I, Tonya to be number 3 all time, just behind Parasite, which of course was directed by Bong Joon-ho, who has the number 1 movie in the country and in the world right now. And Anora, I thought it was going to be stuck down there at 6th place, but if it can make just a little bit more money, it's only about really less than $200,000 behind Ferrari for number 5 all time on Neon's domestic earners list. I think it could probably make that amount of money. So Anora might also be a top 5 film. Neon having a really, really good, not just year, but last few years. Of course, Anora did win Best Picture at the Academy Awards just over a week ago, and they pulled a little bit of a prank on me last week because I was up very late doing charts. They had put out the ratings for the Academy Awards and said that numbers were down slightly from the year before. And so I did a chart on that. I talked about it extensively here on the show. The thumbnail and the title of last week's charts video was about the fact that ratings had gone down, and about an hour, maybe less than an hour after I put the video out, they immediately revised the ratings and said, you know what, actually, never mind. When you include mobile ratings, they actually went a little bit up from the year before. So I had to rapidly adjust the title and the thumbnail of my video, which I wanted to do. I actually sat and watched the engagement drop after I did that because it was a bit of a less appealing title if it was, not Oscar numbers go down, which is what it was originally. But also I knew what the real story was, so I'm not going to leave a video sitting out there with an inaccurate title, even though it would do better for me as far as engagement. But I wanted to share with you the actual final ratings for the Academy Awards. These are the revised numbers, and you can see for the 2025 year, it brought in 19.7 million viewers, which was a slight tick up from 2024. So it went from a decrease from the year before to a 5-year high, the highest the ratings have been since 2020, which is when Parasite won Best Picture. So this is good for the Academy in that the numbers didn't drop. And really, considering that last year was Oppenheimer and Barbie, the fact that you had a less high-profile slate of Best Picture winners and nominees, generally, at least in the major categories, is probably good for them. But, again, that's not much of an increase. So I'm sure, yes, it's nice that the final numbers had the ratings not going down, but I think that they're going to want it to inch up a little bit more than about 200,000 viewers per year, especially when they have made the turn to streaming, when the awards should have been more accessible than ever before for people that have cut cable or don't even watch broadcast TV. So it'll be curious to see what they do this year as the year goes on and we see what the nominees are going to be to try to get more people to watch. And I would also appreciate next year if maybe their ratings numbers weren't so inaccurate that it goes from ratings went down to ratings went up. That would make my life just a little bit easier. I had an Oscar-centric member poll last week. I asked which Best Actor winner from 20 plus years ago would you like to see get a second Oscar in honor of Adrian Brody winning over 20 years after he won the Academy Award for the first time. And this was a runaway. I mean, I knew that Nicolas Cage was popular, but these are also other good actors. 61% of people that responded said that they want Nicolas Cage to come back and get that second Best Actor Oscar. Jamie Foxx was in second place at 16%, followed by Al Pacino at 12% and Russell Crowe at 11%. And because I had to do Oscar talk again this week, it just gives me an excuse to run another Oscar member poll. And this will be the last one, I promise. I just like awards and I like to see what people think about the awards. So we're going to go from the Best Actor who you'd like to see come back 20 plus years later to talking about Best Actresses, Best Actress Oscar winners who won on their first and at that time only Oscar nomination. So my question for channel members this week is, which first nomination, first win Best Actress was the most deserving of an Oscar? We have Mikey Madison for Anora, who just won. Michelle Yeoh for Everything Everywhere All at Once, who won on her first nomination. Olivia Colman for The Favorite, who's had nominations since, but that was her first Oscar nomination. And then Brie Larson for Room 10 years ago, believe it or not. That was also Brie Larson's first Oscar nomination. I think this one's a little tougher. Which one of these performances was most deserving of the Academy Award for Best Actress, in your opinion? If you are not a channel member, depending on how you're watching, there might be a button that you can push to become a member, or there is a link down in the description below. And you don't just get to vote in the poll every week, you also get early access to a lot of my videos like this one, as well as custom badges and emoji to use in the chat. I'd love to have you come and be a part of the channel because I love to hear your voice on these polls, and a lot of times the results are very surprising for me. We've got so much more to break down this week, but before we do, I want to thank the sponsors for this episode. This video is brought to you by Mando. The clocks are set forward, the weather's getting warmer, and it's time for spring cleaning. Now for me, that's going through all the award season swag I don't want. Goodbye Emilia Perez t-shirt, hat, and poster. But why not also make it time to get rid of your old deodorant? Mando is a whole body deodorant that's safe for use anywhere, and I mean anywhere on your body, wherever you need it. And if you want to get started, you can get $5 off a starter pack right now with my exclusive code and link by using the code Dan at shopmando.com. Mando is clinically proven to block odor all day and control odor for up to 72 hours. It also comes in solid stick or spray options in a variety of scents like Pro Sport, Clover Woods, and my favorites, Mount Fuji and Bourbon Leather. Mando's starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, a cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like a mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping. As a special offer for fans of the show, new customers get $5 off a starter pack with my exclusive code. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack. Use code Dan at shopmando.com. That's SHOPMANDO.com. Please support the show and tell them that I sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando. Let's look now outside of the US and Canada to the top 5 films internationally. Ne Zha 2 is a #1 movie again if you don't take the domestic marketplace into consideration at $37.6 million. Mickey 17, which expanded to many more countries over the past weekend, comes in second place at $24.5 million. Captain America Brave New World is in third at $9.2 million, followed by Bridget Jones, Mad About the Boy at $8.4 million, and Detective Chinatown 1900 at $4.5 million. When you take those international numbers, you combine them with our domestic numbers, you get the top 5 films in the world. And there is a new world champion because Mickey 17 was able to dethrone Ne Zha 2 just barely with $43.6 million. That's a 384% increase in business. It was in a very small, limited number of countries, including South Korea, which is Bong Joon-ho's home. Ne Zha 2 falls to second place with a 43.5% decrease in business. It was at $38.3 million worldwide for the weekend. Its total is now over $2 billion. Captain America Brave New World drops 47.6% for a $17.7 million total. It's now at $371 million worldwide. Bridget Jones, Mad About the Boy, has a 46.4% drop. It made $8.4 million, and it's now brought in over $100 million worldwide, and yet did not get a theatrical release here in the United States. It was a straight-to-streaming film, And finally, The Monkey drops 31.4% for a $7.95 million weekend and a worldwide total over $50 million. When we check in on Captain America as far as the MCU franchise tracker by worldwide gross, it has already moved past Captain America the First Avenger at just over $371 million. It's less than $10 million away from overtaking Black Widow and about $30 million away from overcoming Eternals there at number 30, although I don't know if it's going to go much past Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, which is there at $432.2 million. We'll see how it does, but again, it's looking like it's going to be in the bottom fifth of the MCU. Also checking in on Ne Zha 2. Now, according to the numbers reported by ComScore, and I use ComScore because they do actually track box office data, I have to kind of keep fact-checking people that say, well, these Chinese numbers aren't real because no box office tracker reports the numbers. Yeah, actually they do. ComScore, which tracks numbers domestically and worldwide, has been tracking Ne Zha 2. That's where I get the worldwide number. So yes, box office trackers do track and report the gross from Ne Zha 2. It's not just someone getting a call from the Communist Party on their phone like some people seem to think it is. But right now, Ne Zha 2, I still have as number 7 all-time worldwide. Some people have already moved it past Avengers Infinity War and Star Wars The Force Awakens up to number 5 all time. It is going to get there, but I'm going to go with the official reported number from ComScore, not from China, but from ComScore, which is a box office tracking business that is located here in North America. So yeah, next week it's probably going to be up there at number 5. Right now it's at number 7. But yeah, $2 billion worldwide, one of only 7 films ever that's made that much money. It's pretty incredible. This has been a really, really interesting story to track over the course of the year. Let's take a look now at what I call some of our specialty charts, and we will start with the top per theater averages for this past weekend. At number 1 was a movie called EFUS, which played in just 2 theaters and brought in about $10,500 per theater. EFUS is about a grown men's recreational baseball league that has to face their field being demolished. I haven't seen the film, but I'm hoping maybe they have a dance-off at the rec center in order to save it. Mickey 17 brought in just under $5,000 in each of its 3,807 theaters. At number 3 is a movie called The Visitor, which is about a mysterious man who seduces every member of a family and then disappears. From what I've read, this seems like a very kind of avant-garde film. If you look at that poster, take the kids out of the room, or maybe look at a bigger version. That depicts what I can only describe as vagina feet. So have fun with that, I guess. Well, I guess a certain subset might. On Becoming a Guinea Fowl is at number 4. It brought in $3,340 per theater in 4 theaters, and I'm happy to see this on the chart. Again, Hundreds of Beavers played in just 1 theater over the weekend, but it brought in $3,303 in that theater. Check out their website. I'm sure they have a website. They're still obviously on the road with this movie. If you have a chance to see it in a crowd, in a packed auditorium where people are watching the movie, I think you're going to have a great time. I wish I could have seen it that way. Looking at the top specialty films, these are movies that are in 1,000 theaters or fewer. At number 1 is Ne Zha 2, which brings in just under $700,000. I did not have a theater count for it, but it is under 1,000 theaters. At number 2 is Queen of the Ring at 825 theaters. There wasn't a whole lot of box office reporting, but I found a $380,000 figure. This is a movie about an early pioneer in the world of women's wrestling. I'm Still Here in 442 theaters brought in $327,000. At number 4 is The Rule of Jenny Penn in 878 theaters, which brought in just over $250,000. I actually did, as I mentioned on the show last week, go and see it because it was playing near me. It is a quite twisted film, but John Lithgow and Jeffrey Rush are both fantastic in it. So if you're okay with the sort of uneasy, psychological, at times kind of bordering a little bit on body horror, and you want to see an acting masterclass from those two actors, I didn't think that the movie itself was phenomenal, but their performances certainly were. And from what we've seen with the specialty box office, you usually have about a 1-week window to see these movies in theaters. So if you want to see The Rule of Jenny Penn, this would be the week to do it. It's also being released by IFC Films and Shudder, so I'm sure that it will be available on the Shudder streaming service probably pretty soon in case you're not able to see it in theaters. And finally, rounding out the top 5 is No Other Land, which won the Academy Award for Best Documentary Feature. It does not have an official distributor, but it played in 124 theaters, so obviously there were more theater owners that were willing to take it on despite the controversy. It brought in just under $250,000. I was reading a news story over the weekend There was a particular city where the mayor wrote to the theater telling them not to show it, or asking politely, as only politicians can do, asking them not to show it. And the theater said that they were still going to show it because they felt that it presented a viewpoint that people should have access to. So No Other Land right now is more available than it has been, although it is still shamefully unavailable if you want to see it. But if it's not anywhere near you or hasn't been, check around because it's getting more available. This is the 2025 annual domestic box office. These are movies released in 2025. Captain America Brave New World still number one easily for the year at $176.4 million domestically, followed by Dogman at $88.6 million. One of Them Days still in third place at $48.5 million. Paddington in Peru moves up one spot to number 4, which drops Den of Thieves 2 Pantera down to number 5. The Monkey moves up 2 spots with $31 million and looks like it's headed for the top 5. Heart Eyes stays at number 7. Flight Risk drops 2 spots down to number 8. Companion moves up 1 spot to number 9, and Wolfman is now on the brink. Mickey 17 probably has surpassed it by the end of today as you're watching the show. Should be in the top 10 next week. Wolfman has ended its theatrical run domestically at $20.7 million. This is the 2025 worldwide box office. As best I can find it, it's still hard to track down a lot of these numbers because there's really not one service that reports all of them. Ne Zha 2 at number 1 with over $2 billion. Detective Chinatown 1900 is in second place at $484.5 million. So 2 Chinese releases right now at the top of the worldwide box office. Captain America Brave New World is in third, followed by another Chinese film, Creation of the Gods 2. Dogman is in fifth place at $119.8 million, although right behind it is Bridget Jones, Mad About the Boy, at $111.2 million. I added a British flag because people kept asking me why there wasn't a British flag, and I understood their point and quite frankly didn't want to field any more questions about it. So I added a British flag along with the American flag for Bridget Jones' Mad About the Boy. Boonie Bears Future Reborn moves down 1 spot to number 7. And then Legends of the Condor, Chava, and Den of Thieves 2 Pantera round out the 2025 worldwide box office top 10. Mickey 17 should be on here by next week. So that's what's going on at the box office. Let's take a look at the world of streaming, and we will start with the latest numbers from Netflix. This is for the week of February 24th through March 2nd, and at number 1 was a Netflix original movie called Counterattack, which brought in 18.64 million views, a bit of a slow week by Netflix standards. Counterattack is a Mexican film about a group of cartel sicarios who get more than they bargained for when they attack a group of elite soldiers. In second place is Zero Day, which held well in its second week at 17.88 million views. Venom: The Last Dance is one of those Sony films that went to Netflix first. It debuts in third place at 12.83 million views, followed by American Murder, Gabby Petito at 11.26 million views. Demon City is in fifth place. It is a Japanese film about a legendary hitman who embarks on a one-man mission to wipe out the criminals who have taken over his city. I don't know what Japanese for Baba Yaga is, but it sounds a little similar to John Wick. 9.61 million views for Demon City. Running Point Season 1 debuts at number 6 with just over 9 million views. I believe that show has already been picked up for a second season. Despicable Me 4 hits the charts at 8.81 million views. Squad 36 is in 8th place. It's a French film about internal conflict that threatens to tear a police force apart. It came in just over 7 million views. Just under 7 million views is a movie called A Copenhagen Love Story. You might assume that this is a Danish film from the title, and you would be right to do so because this is a movie from Denmark about a couple who struggles to conceive. And then rounding out the top 10, another Despicable Me film, Despicable Me 3 at 6.87 million views. And Counterattack was not only the number 1 movie for the past week, it was also one of the best movie debuts of the year for Netflix with 18.64 million views. That's good for 4th place. Ad Vitam debuted to 17.15 million views. It's now in 5th. La Dolce Villa is in 3rd with 19.82 million views in its debut week. Kinda Pregnant is in 2nd place, but Back in Action is an easy 1st place at 46.79 million. There is another movie I'll mention at the end of the show that's coming out this upcoming week that may give Back in Action a run for its money. These are the top 10 most watched Netflix movies of the year so far. This is since December 30th, 2024, so there's a little overlap between this year and last year. At number 1 is Back in Action, which has brought in 130.89 million views this year. more than double the number 2 movie, which is Ad Vitam with 56 million views. The Secret Life of Pets 2 is in 3rd place, followed by Kinda Pregnant and La Dolce Villa in 5th place. Carry On is a carryover from 2024. It's still number 6 with 32.75 million views, followed by Honeymoon Crashers, Lucas World, Despicable Me 2, and The Secret Life of Pets. As far as the most watched Netflix shows this year, it's kind of similar to the movie side. There's one show that has an easy number 1, which is Squid Game Season 2 at 126 million views just since December 30th. Missing You is in 2nd at 45.7 million views, although The Night Agent Season 2 is closing fast. It's at 43.9 million views. American Murder, Gabby Petito is close behind at 42.56 million views, followed by Zero Day in 5th place. American Primeval is in 6th, followed by Squid Game Season 1, which has racked up another 32 million views just since December 30th. Exo Kitty Season 2 is in 8th place. Cassandra is in 9th place, and The Trauma Code Season 1 is in 10th place. And these are the most watched programs on Netflix in 2025, so basically kind of merging the most watched shows and the most watched movies. Back in Action is at number 1, Squid Game 2 is in 2nd place, Ad Vitam is in 3rd, Missing You is in 4th, The Night Agent Season 2 is in 5th, The Secret Life of Pets 2 is in 6th, the only non-Netflix program here in the top 10. Kinda Pregnant is in 7th. American Murder, Gabby Petito is now a top 10 all-around program. It debuts at number 8, followed by La Dolce Villa at number 9, and Zero Day, a new entry here this week, at number 10. American Primeval and Carry On are now out of the top 10 for 2025. Let's take a look at the latest Nielsen ratings. Now, these are domestic only, so just U.S. viewing numbers, and they're delayed by about a month because that's how long it takes Nielsen to get the numbers to us. So this is for February 3rd through 9th, the week that Kinda Pregnant debuted, to 14.1 million hours watched. It was the most watched streaming movie that week. The second most watched was You're Cordially Invited on Amazon Prime Video, and its second week at 7.1 million hours watched, followed by The Menu, Back in Action, and The Wild Robot, which has held well on this chart over the course of a few weeks. Moana's at number 6. The Super Mario Brothers movie on Peacock returns to number 7. American Renegades is at number 8. It's a 2017 film about commandos looking for stolen Nazi gold, and I'm pretty sure that the way to get a top 10 movie or show in the US is to just put American in front of any title. So maybe when Warner Brothers puts Mickey 17 out on Max, they should just call it American Mickey 17, and more people might watch it. Sing returns to the top 10 at number 9, as does Frozen at number 10. These are the most watched streaming shows for February 3rd through the 9th. The Night Agent continues to dominate in first place at 25.3 million hours watched. Behind it is the debut of Sweet Magnolias. Remember, this is all seasons, not just the current season. So it was at 17.75 million hours watched. Bluey is in third place, followed by The Recruit and NCIS. Grey's Anatomy, Younger, Law & Order SVU, The Big Bang Theory, and Bob's Burgers round out the top 10. When we look at the top shows as far as watch time per available episode, so you look at all the hours watched divided by the number of episodes that are available to stream, American Manhunt, O.J. Simpson, there's that American thing again, is able to get number 1 at 2.16 million hours watched per episode. It was very competitive with Paradise on Hulu, which continues to do well at 1.98 million hours watched per episode. The Night Agent brought in 1.27 million hours watched per episode. That's across both seasons, so that's 20 episodes. Apple Cider Vinegar, the limited series on Netflix, brought in 1.139 million hours watched per episode. And The Recruit on Netflix brought in 1.138 million hours watched per episode. That is as close as you can get it. Severance is doing so well in its second season. 13 available episodes, just under 750,000 hours watched per episode. By far the highest numbers we've seen for Severance on the streaming charts. Beast Games on Amazon Prime Video, with 9 available episodes, brought in 705,000 hours watched per episode. We'll see if that number goes up next week when we get the numbers for the finale of the first, maybe, or final season of Beast Games. Squid Game is at number 8, Sweet Magnolias is at number 9, and Invincible on Amazon Prime Video is at number 10 at just under 350,000 hours watched per episode. This coincides with the debut of its latest season. Beast Games may not be a blockbuster as far as all around around ratings, but it is now one of the most viewed Amazon Prime programs since they began reporting data in 2020. The Summer I Turned Pretty was knocked off this chart. Beast Games is now at number 10 with 48.3 million hours watched, although it's significantly behind Cross, which is at number 9 at 63.1 million hours watched. The Terminalist is at number 8, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel is at number 7, and The Wheel of Time is at number 6. There are new episodes that are about to debut for The Wheel of Time, so it could move up this chart. Fallout is at number 5, with Jack Ryan at number 4, Lord of the Rings of Power at number 3, Reacher at number 2, although we should be getting new numbers for that show pretty soon, and The Boys currently is the most viewed Amazon Prime program since 2020, with just under 350 million hours watched. And finally, there's one quick change to make as far as the most watched library streaming series since Nielsen started reporting numbers back in 2020. These lists don't change that much, but Family Guy has now become the 10th most watched library streaming show overall for the last 5 years. That drops Heartland out of the top 10. Family Guy's at 633.8 million hours watched, and I think within probably 2 to 4 weeks, it should overtake Supernatural to be number 9. Gilmore Girls is at number 8. The Big Bang Theory is at number 7. Suits is at number 6. Criminal Minds is at number 5. Coco Melon is at number 4. Bluey has now passed the 2 billion hours watched mark at number 3. It's only about 400 million hours behind NCIS for that second spot, although NCIS is still currently number 2. And the reigning champion as far as library streaming shows is Grey's Anatomy at 2.7 billion hours watched. Overall, the most watched series since Nielsen started reporting numbers in 2020. And that does it for this week's show. Before I go, though, I want to share with you a few things you might be interested in watching, both at home and in theaters. First of all, streaming starting today on Paramount Plus is Better Man, the Robbie Williams biopic. Honestly, I would say this is worth a watch. It's weird in many ways, but I think that it's actually got a pretty good heart to it. So if you have a couple extra hours and you want to see a weird movie about a pop star from Britain who's depicted as a CGI ape, check out Better Man. On Wednesday on Netflix is the debut of Temptation Island. Now, I knew this as an early 2000s Fox reality show hosted by Mark L. Wahlberg. The L stands for legally required to distinguish myself from Marky Mark Wahlberg. Now it moves to Netflix as hot couples in trouble go to an island where they're tempted to cheat by other hot people. Truly a show that we can all relate to. Also on Wednesday, Moana 2 makes its streaming debut on Disney Plus after an extended theatrical window. On Thursday, I mentioned this before, The Wheel of Time debuts the first 3 episodes of its 3rd season on Amazon Prime Video. I've heard that this show both does justice to The Wheel of Time and is a horrible insult to it, aka business as usual for any show that handles this sort of genre. But you can check out those first 3 episodes on Thursday. Also on Thursday, if you didn't see Kraven the Hunter in theaters, and for your sake, I hope you didn't, it will be available to stream on Netflix. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. If you want to head to the theaters, there are a lot of options for you this upcoming weekend. First of all, on Friday, Novocaine, which is about a man played by Jack Quaid who literally can feel no pain, hits theaters as he embarks on a mission to rescue his new girlfriend. I caught an early screening of this movie. I'm going to have a review for it up, I think, tomorrow, if not Thursday. Also opening in wide release this upcoming weekend is The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie. Somehow this film escaped David Zaslav's wrath and is hitting theaters after originally being produced for Max during peak streaming. Daffy Duck and Porky Pig team up to stop an alien invasion, and early word's been positive, so hopefully this movie isn't despicable. Also in wide release is Black Bag. Steven Soderbergh just keeps pumping out movies with his second wide release this year. Michael Fassbender and Cate Blanchett star as spies with torn loyalties. Black Bag also has positive reviews thus far. And also in wide release this weekend is a movie called Opus. Io Adebri stars as a writer who finds herself embedded in a cult-like atmosphere ruled over by a music icon played by John Malkovich. Opus had a big splashy debut at the Sundance Film Festival, but early reviews and buzz have not been overly positive. They have not been very good, actually. But this is an A24 release, so if A24 is your vibe, you can hit up the theaters this weekend, so a lot of movies in wide release to choose from. Some films opening in limited release, so not as widely available, include Borderline. The writer of Cocaine Bear wrote and directed this movie starring Ray Nicholson as a stalker, menacing a former pop star played by Samara Weaving. And can I just say, I appreciate the 80s aesthetic of this poster. It's really cool, especially with Ray Nicholson. It reminds me of a poster that his dad, Jack Nicholson, would be on. And in many theaters around the country, you can also catch The Last Supper, which is a dramatic depiction of Jesus' Last Supper with his disciples, but please no spoilers. I have not finished the book yet. If you feel like staying at home, the biggest movie of the weekend as far as budget goes is actually debuting on Netflix, and that is The Electric State. Millie Bobby Brown stars as a teenager looking for her long-lost brother with the help of Chris Pratt in a world inhabited by robots. The Electric State is directed by Joe and Anthony Russo with a screenplay from Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely. That's basically the team behind the Russo's MCU films. And Netflix reportedly spent over $300 million on this movie alone, which has not had great early buzz. I'm going to try to check it out and bring you a review here on the channel. Finally, this weekend on Apple TV Plus is a new series called Dope Thief. Brian Tyree Henry plays a man who steals from drug dealers but is soon being chased by them. Ridley Scott produced this series, and he also directed the first episode. So you Ridley Scott completionists are going to want to check out Dope Thief. And that's all I got for you this week. Be sure to stay tuned right here because I will have reviews of those movies that are coming up, and I'm always keeping my ear to the ground for box office news, movie news, and of course, everything else that we do here on the channel. Thank you so much to Mando for sponsoring this episode. You can find out more about them in the description below, and thank you for watching. As always, until next time, please stay safe, and I'll see you then. Bye.